Hi everyone, I wanted to give a quick intro to our topics this week, which include photosynthesis and respiration. Now these topics can be challenging, but I think having an overview is really helpful so we could kind of categorize the starting points and the ending points. So in photosynthesis, we all know that this is how plants and other photosynthesizing organisms, they create energy, molecular energy, from sunlight. And we'll expand upon that in a minute. And then cellular respiration is when organisms break down molecular energy, or break down molecules, to be more accurate, to get energy. So let's add some more details here. What are we saying, or what do we mean when we are referring to energy in these two examples? Well, in the case of photosynthesis, when we are taking in that sunlight, we're producing ATP specifically, which is a very useful energy carrying molecule in the cell. In cellular respiration, we also are making ATP. And the connection between the two is that in photosynthesis, after we make ATP, we use that ATP to make glucose and other molecules, but right now we're going to talk about glucose. So first, through photosynthesis, we use that light energy to make ATP, and then ATP, in a sense, holds energy, and we use that energy to make glucose. Glucose is a really good molecule to store energy. We can also use glucose for other things. For example, plant cell walls are made up of glucose polymers. And then when the cell needs energy, it could actually make glucose back into ATP. But actually, let's go back. And because the process of going back and converting our glucose into ATP is the process of cellular respiration. What are the other connections between these two processes? Well, in addition, in photosynthesis, we are initially splitting a water molecule. So we need to add water, and you know this because we need to water our plants, and that water molecule is necessary again to kick off or to start photosynthesis. And this produces oxygen, and more specifically O2. In cellular respiration, we use oxygen, as we know, because we need to breathe oxygen. So I'm going to put this in here. Arrows pointing towards the process mean that these are needed for the process. Arrows pointing away from the process are going to mean that they're produced by the process. And what is produced by cellular respiration? What do we breathe out? That is carbon dioxide. One more connection here, or a couple more connections here. We also produce, or we also breathe out water, right? Water vapor, which can be used in photosynthesis. And in this conversion from ATP to glucose, we need to build glucose, which is a carbon-based molecule, out of something. Where do we get that carbon? Well, that carbon comes from CO2. So it's a more complex system than what I'm going to say or what I'm going to describe in a moment. But you can think of this as the kind of ecological, biological connection between plants and animals, where plants are producing ATP from sunlight energy, but they need water to do this, and then they release oxygen, which animals can use. They use that ATP to make glucose, and the building blocks of glucose, the carbon atoms, are from CO2, which at present are largely from cellular respiration, byproducts from animals, as well as a lot of pollution, which we won't talk about right now, but we will talk a little bit about in the future. And that CO2, as we said, is produced through cellular respiration, which requires oxygen, which may have come or probably came from photosynthesis, and also those glucose molecules that are broken down in cellular respiration to create or to build ATP. Those glucose molecules were at some point made by a photosynthesizing organism, most likely.